Welcome back everyone, I'm Kipleys Games, this is EVE Online, and today we're going to be taking a look at some ship fittings for the brand new ships, which were introduced to the game in the Havoc expansion. So let's dive right in, shall we? First up, we'll take a look at the Mekubal, which is the Angel Cartel destroyer. Vertical, so it's already winning on points because it's vertical. And here is a combat exploration fit I have made. Let's load the ammo in. So as we see, this thing has 4 turrets and 2 empty high slots, which is great. That lets us fit in auto targeting system 1 to give us +2 maximum lock targets, and the other spare high slot is for a sister's core probe launcher, which is great. The main weaponry is 4 280mm howitzer artillery 2, which is the biggest and baddest guns you can get for this ship. And these provide a whopping 312 DPS with a fall-off range of 27 kilometers. Mid-power slots 1 meganewton afterburner 2, which pushes the top speed of this thing to 843, which is pretty good. Quite a lot of destroyers are slower than that. We have a compact small cap battery here, which makes it cap stable, at least with my skills. And we have a tracking computer 2 in the final mid slot, which of course you can boost the range of with an optimal range script if you so wish, and that pushes the range out to 30 kilometer fall off, which is great, because as we know from our many videos on combat anomalies, you sometimes spawn about 30 kilometers away, so you can hit everything with 312 DPS from out here. Low slots, 2 gyro stabilizer 2s to boost the rate of fire and damage, a multi-spectrum energized membrane 2 for more resistances, and a small armor repairer 2, which is our tank, which is repairing 20.4 hit points a second. It's pretty good. Rigs wise, I've plumped for a small projectile collision accelerator Mark 1, because we do only have 350 calibration, not 400, because this is a pirate ship. They usually have slightly less calibration. And I had enough calibration left over to do both a kinetic and explosive Tech 2 armor reinforcer. So the resistances for this thing are really rather good. EM is 69, nice. Thermal is 50, 61 kinetic, and 53 explosive. So this thing can do combat sites anywhere it wants, because it can either use phase plasma for kinetic and thermal, or it can change to EM ammo for EM, or fusion for explosives, so it can run combat sites anywhere it wants. Nice little fit. And just for sake of variety, I have done a faster moving, harder hitting fit with autocannons. This does 365 DPS. It's not all that much more, but it is more. It's much faster because I've fitted it with a quad lift restrained microwatt drive, which goes over 2000 meters a second, and a web to hold things in place. Capacitor only lasts for 2 minutes, but that's going to be fine. When you're running combat sites, you really don't need to be moving all the time. Even with the microwatt drive off, cap only lasts for 10 minutes, but that's going to be fine. That is 2 ways I would fit the Mekubal for combat exploration. Then next up, we're going to be looking at a Mamba, also known as the little baby healer. Not quite as little baby as the worm, but it's the intermediate stage between a worm and a healer. So let's load the ammo. Once again, this thing has 7 high slots and 6 of them are reserved for weapons with 1 spare one, and spare high slots are great for combat exploration. That's why we have a sister's core probe launcher right here. And on this fit I've gone for 6 light missile launcher 2s, and when fitted with Scourge Fury light missiles, the maximum flight range is 32 kilometers, which is more than good enough. And the missiles will provide 163 DPS. The rest of the DPS is being provided by Hobgoblin 2s. You could of course get more DPS by using augmented Hobgoblins if you so wish. Let's have a look at them. Light Scout drones. Bang in a couple of these bad boys. So if you were to use augmented Hobgoblins, the damage would go up from 382 to 403. Propulsion wise, I've gone for a compact afterburner because the CPU is quite tight, and navigation is 625 meters a second. A little bit slow, but it'll be fine because it's long range, it doesn't have to move too much. We also have a compact multi-spectrum shield hardener for resistances and a compact EM shield amplifier just to fill the EM hole, and most of the defense comes from this medium compact shield extender. And the tank is buffed by two of the rigs, which are two small core defense field purger 2s for faster passive regen if we switch over to passive shield recharge. You see 28 hit points a second. I believe a medium shield booster would rep about 30, so this is very close to having the same tank as having a cap stable medium shield booster, which is great. And the final rig is a small ancillary current router 2, otherwise we don't have enough power grid. Both low slots are occupied by drone damage amplifiers. There's a Tech 2 and a compact, again because the CPU on this fit is super tight, that's why we've done that. But 403 DPS, all the way out to 32 kilometers. It's more DPS than the Mekubal was, it's not quite as fast. But then, that's why Gurista ships are overpowered pieces of shit when it comes to PVE. So we've got another one of them, so that's great. And just for sake of completion, let's do a rocket fit. Very simple change. Change the missiles to rockets, change the afterburner to a microwatt drive, and changed out the compact drone damage amplifier for a compact ballistic control system. This thing gets 406 DPS, and if you overheat the rockets when you're using Scourge Rage, you get 514 DPS on a destroyer hull, which is absolutely sickening. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Mambas being used in Abyssal Dead Space because healers are just not overpowered enough, so now we've got a little baby healer. Worms were doing, what, 300 DPS? Healers are doing around 1000. This thing's doing 500, so it's almost right in the middle. Right, that's the destroyers done. Let's get on to the big stuff. And the first big stuff we're going to look at is the Alligator, which is the big healer. This is a battlecruiser sized healer. Now this gets bonuses to heavy missiles and heavy assault missiles, but not light missiles, so rapid light missiles are not going to get bonuses on this thing. That is why on this first bit, which is heavy assault missiles, I have plumped for 6 heavy assault missile launcher Mark IIs, which when fitted with Scourge Rage heavy assault missiles, the maximum flight range is only 17 kilometers, but they are pushing out an awful lot of DPS, 641 to be exact. And the 7th free high slot is a Sister's Core probe launcher for finding combat sites. Now, as a battlecruiser, this thing will not fit in anything smaller than a 4 out of 10 site, but that's fine because if you're running combat anomalies in Caldari space, you're going to be finding 4 out of 10s all the time anyway, because that's what escalates in that region. Propulsion wise, we have a 50 meganewton enduring microwatt drive, which pushes the speed up to 1223 meters a second, which is respectable. Tank wise, we have 2 enduring multi-spectrum shield hardeners just to leave the cap, and we have 2 large shield extender 2s, A for shield hit points and B for passive regen. Speaking of passive regen, all 3 rigs are Tech 2 field purgers for even more regen, so the regen rate is 94 hit points a second. I believe a large booster will rep about something like 69, nice. And if you then put a shield boost amplifier next to that, then it gets something like 90. So this is effectively got a shield amplified large booster. That is how good the passive regen on this thing is. Low slots, I've gone for 2 drone damage amplifier 2s and 2 ballistic control system 2s. And if we use augmented hammerheads, which are the expensive but very hard hitting ones, then the drones get 593 DPS. When you add that to the 641 from the missiles, this disgusting shit gets 1234 DPS. I know that some healers can approach something around about 1000, but this is 1200, and it's going to be significantly cheaper than a healer because we do not have all the weird Dead Space and officer gear on this thing. So yeah, Gurista ships are overpowered. And just to prove that, I made another fit with heavy missiles for a longer range work. So let's load this thing up. The rigs are the same, they are field purgers. We have a Sister's Core probe launcher here in the spare mid slot. The missiles have been changed out to heavy missiles, which when loaded with Tech 2 Furies still reach out to 65 kilometers, which is pretty damn good, and they're still providing 359 DPS. Mid slots have changed a little bit. We have an afterburner instead of a micro watt drive. Speed's 473, which is still pretty good for a battlecruiser. And Tank ISA Heavy Tech 2 multi-spectrum shield hardener. We have 2 compact missile guidance computers to extend the range, because this is meant to be the long range fit, and we have still the 2 large shield extender 2s. Both slots have been changed a little bit. Instead of having 2 drone damage amplifiers and 2 ballistic controls, we've gone for 3 drone damage amplifiers this time and 1 ballistic control. And again, if you use augmented hammerheads and Tech 2 missiles, this thing is still getting 1000 DPS, but this time it projects it all the way out to around 65 kilometers, and the drone control range is 60. So 1000 DPS and still 94 hit points a second repairs, all the way out to 60 kilometers. This is really good for standing off. This thing will easily complete level 4 missions. I'm not sure why you would run level 4 missions in a pirate battlecruiser, but there you go, you can. Let's take a look at the other battlecruiser that came out, and that was the Khizriel. We are a pretty standard artillery fit. Let's load the ammunition in. Okay, let's go through this fit. The high slots are 6 650mm artillery cannon 2s. I could have gone for 720s, but it was just too difficult to fit, so I've gone for 650s. Again, this Drone Link Augmenter 2 can easily be changed out for a sister's scan probe launcher if you so wished. Just like that. As we see, it still fits. And these 6 guns are pumping out only 522 DPS, but they are reaching all the way out to 79 kilometers, which is a huge long range, which is why I wanted the Drone Link Augmenter, so the drones can go out as far as the guns can, so that's why they are there. Propulsion wise, I have gone for a single 10 meganewton afterburner 2, which pushes the speed up to 575 meters a second, which is pretty fast for a battlecruiser. Then we have our old friend, the large compact cap battery for capacitor, and the other 3 medium power slots are all tracking computers. You can do a mix of optimal range script or tracking speed script, or what I've done is put 1 in each, so these 2 are not stacking penalising each other. And this third one is run empty, and that will stacking penalise, but it will only be stacking penalised once. It will clash with this, and it will clash with this, but it will only clash with each of them once, so it will still get 87% of its bonuses. Low slots, 3 gyro stabiliser 2s for more damage and rate of fire. Tank wise, we have a medium armour repairer 2 and a reactive armour hardener. And the final low slot is a reactor control unit 2, because even fitting the smaller 650mm cannons, I still needed more power grid, so we have a reactor control 2 there. Rigs wise, I've gone for a medium projectile collision accelerator 1 for more damage. I could have gone burst aerator for more DPS, but we're using artillery and you really want your volleys to hit quite hard. As we see, it's doing 2474 volley damage, so that's nice. And we have a kinetic and explosive armor reinforcer Mark IIs. The resistances are not great, but as we know, the reactive armor hardener will shift around at 60 points of resist and boost any holes that we have. Now, I was very tempted to do a shield tank on this, because it does have 5 mid slots, which is quite enough. But then all that means is that we could probably get a large shield booster up here. As you know, large shield boosters do around 69-70 hit points a second, but then I would need a couple of hardeners as well, and then a couple of tracking things, and maybe a capacitor rig to help the shield booster. So we'd be losing quite a lot of the tracking computer bonuses. We'd be losing some tracking in range in order to get slightly better rep, and I thought, nah, we'll just go for the classic armor repairer fit. And I've done another fit with this with 425mm autocannon, so let's have a look at that. And this time I have actually used a command burst. We have a skirmish command burst 2 fitted with a rapid deployment charge, which increases the speed boost of our microwatt drive, and indeed we have a compact microwatt drive here. So this thing is going 1822 meters a second, which for a battlecruiser is insane. That's super speedy. The high slots are 6 425mm autocannon 2s. The fall-off range is still 27 kilometers, so that's still pretty damn good. I have fitted 2 stasis webifiers here, but you know what, because the fall-off range is 27k, feel free to leave that as 2 tracking computers, because you'll probably kill things long before you get within web range anyway, so let's investigate that. they will easily fit. There's plenty of fitting space on this fit. Yep, 2 Tech 2 tracking computers. We'll just put one of each script in them, just so they don't stack and penalise each other. The fall-off range is 35 kilometers. I mean, that's ridiculous. So yeah, I'd probably run it like this. 845 DPS on this thing. And the drones we have are 5 Hammerhead 2s and 5 Hobgoblin 2s. It does have 75 megabits, so conceivably you could carry and use 3 heavy drones if you so wish for close range brawling. I mean, that's entirely viable. So if we were to use 3 Ogre 2s, we'd be getting 877 DPS. Low slots, as before, 3 Gyro Stabilizer 2s, Tech 2 Medium Armour Repairer, Reactive Armour Hardener, and this time we don't need quite so much power grid this time, so I've changed it over to a power diag instead of a reactor control, simply because it gives us a little bit more capacitor. And the rigs are the same: Collision Accelerator 1, Kinetic and Explosive Tech 2. Then the third tracking computer has been replaced by a cap recharger. Cap depletes in 7 minutes, but that's absolutely fine. It's stable with the microwatt drive off. You're only going to have to pulse that. I would probably use this 425mm fit because, as we know, the fall off does go all the way up to 35. You just don't need this 79 kilometers, which was on the artillery fit. Yeah, that's how I would fit a Khizriel. I have not produced a fit for the Azariel Titan, and I never will. Now, you may be wondering why I am not buying these ships and testing them out, and there's a simple answer for that. It's because they cost far too much money at the moment. Let's have a look. Here is the Alligator. There's not very many of them on sale, and the cheapest one is a 1.3 billion ISK. And again, the Khizriel, there's not very many on sale, and the cheapest one is a 1.4 billion ISK. Mambas are just under 400 million, and the Mekubal is almost 600 million. So that is why I am not going to be buying and testing out these ships, at least not for about 6 months, until the prices come down to something a little bit more reasonable. So that brings us to the end of this video. That was quite a quick look at combat exploration fits for all the new pirate ships which were introduced to EVE Online in the Havoc expansion in November 2023. Hope you find this fun and informative, and please feel free to post your own fits in the comments below, and let's do a little bit of information trading, shall we? Until we meet again, do look after yourself, and I'll talk to you again soon.